dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to let you know that at 6:30 it's going to go down. So, 6 minutes, Dougie Fresh, you're on. On. gentlemen, we'll be starting in 2 minutes. Can you find your seats, please? Lauren is giving me orders. Lauren!
Tony's trying to start without me.
Wait, I gotta be on the left side because I'm a lefty.
You want to be on the left? Okay, you're on the left. But you rock the.
What is this?
Ooh, you rock the mic right. That's the thing. Good evening. On behalf.
Just say.
Let me talk.
Say this. Say this.
He's
How you doing?
poor Lauren. She did not know when she asked Tony Medina and Jessica Care-Moore to host this fabulous evening. She did not know that we knew each other already.
No, let me tell you something. You know how close we are?
Don't say nothing crazy, Tony.
We're so close that I wrote this haiku for us.
This has nothing to do with me. Zero.
I'm feeling giddy.
Oh my God.
Nothing to do with Diddy.
Tony.
Taco meat titty.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. We're so excited, like all of you, and we just want to walk to every table and hug every poet in the room. The fact that this is my third Furious Flower means I'm officially an adult. I was just a baby here for my first one many moons ago. Was it 2004? Wow. I look the same. That's because I date young and I divorced my husband.
That's it.
That is the reason. Amen. Ashe. So I'm excited to be here. And 1994, when, where's Joanne Gabin? I love you so much, Joanne Gabin! Ah! We love you. And
she looks.
oh, super fine, super fine. And so, in 1994, I was just a baby. I was too young to be at the first one. But as soon as I found out about it, I made sure that I was going to be a part of this family, and you couldn't get rid of me. And I'm really honored to be here to celebrate the legends that we're celebrating this evening. So give them a round of applause now in advance. And it does mean a lot to be here. I remember having conversations with other poet laureates and being insecure and in my 20s and not sure like where I fit into this space. So just thank you, especially to Joanne, for being a friend and for making me feel welcome all these years. And Tony Medina, get up here. Get up here.
Don't you know no good?
Oh my God.
What I want to say about Joanne and Furious Flower and now the beautiful Lauren taking over.
Come on, Lauren. With that dress, is dressing.
We got to give her a round of applause because she's nervous.
Yeah.
This is her first Furious Flower.
Yes, Lauren. Yes, baton holder. Let's go.
I just want to share a couple of memories from Furious Flower. Now, Furious Flower, this Furious Flower is the one that takes place every 10 years. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in the between times.
Absolutely.
But one of the, I think it was the second one where they were celebrating a lot of the Black Arts era poets.
Yes.
Baraka, Sonia, Skia, Torre, I think it was Hakeem, right?
Yes, Sonia.
But also Lucille Clifton, right?
Lucille Clifton.
And so it was not in this room, it was more, I think it may have been in this room, but it was lit up more. Oh, it was a different room? Okay. So I was sitting like right here. Honoree Jeffers was right here next to me. Kevin Young was right behind her. Wow. And we were like, all the poets, all the sexy ones were grouped together. You know what I mean? And they introduced Lucille Clifton, and she went up to the dais, and she rocked the famous Come Celebrate With Me off the dome while she was walking to the dais.
Let's go.
And we were like, and then I looked to my left, and Honoree was openly weeping. Yeah. And I said, what's the matter? She said, don't you know that most of these people are not going to be here the next time we have this? Yep. So that kind of blew me away. Yeah. The other memory I have is the in-between times. After Lucille passed, Joanne devised this incredible tribute, 73 poets and writers, because I guess one of them was Tayari Jones, and we all came, and it was like a line. We came up one at a time reading a Lucille Clifton poem. Then after that, we went to this bar, and it was, the whole entire bar was just the writers and the poets.
Wow.
And I remember Nikki Finney getting down and drinking her drinks. I remember Kwame Alexander and all these people.
Yeah.
And
tell it over.
after that, a group of us stumbled out into the streets of Virginia, and we ended up in a parking lot. And it was me, Kevin Young, Rachel Eliza Griffith, and we were all dancing. Thomas Sayers was taking pictures of us, and there's a picture of us on the internet. And me and Camilla are getting down and dancing and grooving. Tayari was dancing with somebody, I forgot who, and everybody was dancing. We just did this impromptu thing. And I mention that because Camilla's not here anymore.
Yeah, it's my sister.
And she was younger than me, and I introduced her to the poetry scene in New York. Yeah. The last one the last memory.
Oh, Lord.
This has to do with Rita Dove and Fred V-Bong. It was 10 years ago, and a gentleman from Kentucky named Frank X. Walker.
Oh, where is the good stuff?
Shauna Morgan, they came to Furious Flower with a trunk full of
bourbon, Kentucky bourbon, baby. Yes.
And then we
both
guarded one of those rooms at the Marriott, right?
It's a part of Furious Flower is bourbon.
And
Part of it.
somehow, one of my former students had a band, they were playing, and all the poets were in there, and Frank lined up all the bottles. And he had little shot glasses,
I got
too.
a picture of it.
And everybody was just doing impromptu readings as the poets were, as the musicians were playing. And, okay, so this is the penultimate one. Not the fact that me and Rita were, Rita was the only senior writer there, senior poet. Because, let's face it, her and Fred they party. Let's give it up for them. They party with us. But Leonard D. Moore stole the show when he got up there and he did some blues poem, whatever, and then he just jerked up his leg like Michael Jackson and yanked up his pants and showed his red socks.
You know what? Goodbye. Okay, I'm going to follow that. And in closing, no, I'm kidding. Jeez, oh, Peach. I do want to mention that 10 years ago, my son was 8 years old, and he read poems at Furious Flower. And I dropped him off a few days ago to Cal Arts in LA. And I'm a mess. I need all the hugs. He's studying music production and film acting. And so King is a superstar, but he's 18 and he sends his love. So anyway.
He's a great kid. I love him.
Thank you. He loves you back, Uncle Tony. All right, we're going to move on. So we're going to start with, we have a very long program. We have a lot of stuff we have to read. And, we are grown, and it's in red, and it's strange. But we're going to try to do it.
Let's welcome how to read.
I'm going to wait. Well, you're going to do that?
No, let's just say it.
Okay. I'm going to bring on the first person. I know what I'm doing. Listen, thank you. I'm listening to, Tony, you're not going to take over this program.
Don't bring this person on.
McKinley E. Melton. We were just together. Just started at Austin, Texas, together with Nikki Giovanni. Just started this fall as associate professor and chair of Africana Studies at Rhodes College. Prior to that, he served as the inaugural Paxton Endowed Teaching Chair and associate professor of English at Gettysburg College. He was the inaugural Furious Flower Poetry Center Scholar in Residence in 2020 to 2021, and he now serves as the chair of the Furious Flower Advisory Board. Please welcome McKinley Melton to Furious Flower. We need some music, some intro music. We need a DJ. Tony, you're the DJ.
He's taking over, man.
The piano. Okay, we're gonna move.
Good evening. Good evening. It was not natural, and she was the first. come from a country of many tongues, tortured by rupture, by theft, by travel like mismatched clothing packed down into the cargo hold of evil ships, sailing irreversible into slavery. Come to a country to be docile and dumb, to be big and breeding easily, to be turkey, horse, cow, to be cook, carpenter, plow, to be 5 foot 6 inches, 140 pounds, in good condition, and answering to the name of Tom or Mary, to be bed bait, to be legally spread legs for rape by the master's son, the master's overseer, the master's visiting nephew, to be nothing human, nothing family, nothing from nowhere, nothing that screams, nothing that weeps, nothing that dreams, nothing that keeps anyone deep in your heart. To live forcibly illiterate, forcibly itinerant, to live eyes lowered, head bowed, to be worked without rest, to be worked without pay, to be worked without thanks, to be worked day up to nightfall, to be 3/5 of a human being at best, to be this valuable, this hated thing among strangers who purchased your life and then cursed it unceasingly. To be a slave. To be a slave. Come to this country a slave, and how should you sing? After the flogging, the lynch rope, the general terror, and weariness, what should you know of a lyrical life? How could you, belonging to no one, but property to those despising the smiles of your soul, how could you dare to create yourself a poet? So begins June Jordan's The Difficult Miracle of Black Poetry in America, something like a sonnet for Phillis Wheatley. Jordan's essay offers a powerful and poignant poetic meditation on Phillis Wheatley, a foundational figure in the tradition of Black writing in America. Deemed not natural in her time, Wheatley was looked upon as an oddity, a peculiarity, a fraud. Her work was belittled as imitative, disregarded and dismissed as being beneath the dignity of criticism. Jordan's reflection aims not simply to evaluate Wheatley, but to paint a portrait of a woman who was so much more than what those of her time wished to make of her. In so doing, Jordan offers a new way of imagining Black poetry and Black poets, beyond the limited and narrow confines to which critics and historians would relegate them. Noting that among many other attributes, a poet is somebody free, Jordan queries, how should there be Black poets in America? This question, piercing the generations, was also taken up by Joanne Gabin, founder of the Furious Flower Poetry Center. Reflecting upon the naming of the center and the introduction to the furious flowering of African American poetry, Gabin opens with an excerpt from Gwendolyn Brooks' second sermon on the Warpland, quoting these lines that have become intimately familiar to those of us within the Furious Flower orbit over the years. The time cracks into furious flower, lifts its face, all unashamed, and sways in wicked grace. Reflecting on the power of Brooks, Gabin writes, quote, the term furious flower is a stunning metaphor for African American poetry because it implies a literature that is both rageful and resolute in its beauty. From the earliest attempts of African American poets in the 18th century to express their existence in a society that debated and debased their humanity, African American poetry has been the aesthetic chronicle of a race struggling to lift its face, all unashamed, end quote. When charged with the unenviable task of articulating the occasion for this gathering, I found myself returning to these words, to the work of Jordan, Gabin, Wheatley, and Brooks. Unsurprisingly, I found not only wisdom in these writings, but I also found that they illuminated the central concern that informs the occasion of our gathering in this place and at this time. At this time, much like every time, Black history, Black culture, Black testimonies, Black language, and Black lives continue to be dismissed, disregarded, dangerously imperiled, as a matter of course in policy and in practice every day. Yet in this time, much like every time, in the midst of it all, we have those who dare to create themselves poets, who dare to be Black poets in a world that rarely values what they offer. In a world such as this, we gather at Furious Flower for the 4th time in as many decades to celebrate Black poets and to lift up Black poetry, which offers the language for that which is often unlanguageable and illuminates new ways of visioning our world. We gather in this space to celebrate our honorees: Elizabeth Alexander, Kwame Dawes, Cornelius Eady, Nikki Finney, Lorna Goodison, E. Ethelbert Miller, Harriet Mullen, Nii Osundare, Tim Siebels, and Patricia Smith, to speak their names and to give them their flowers in recognition of all that they have contributed to the worlds of Black poetry. Yet we also gather to honor the traditions out of which they emerge, to appreciate that this fourth decade-defining conference has itself blossomed from the seeds planted by those who have come before, including Rita Dove, who is here tonight, a 2014 Lifetime Achievement Award recipient to whom that year's conference was also dedicated. We gather not only to reflect upon the past, but to look forward to our future, embracing the legacy that has already begun and anticipating the fruits that these labors will bear. As we proceed with the evening's banquet, I will return to where I began, with June Jordan. I will invite us to reflect upon Jordan's assertion that, quote, "This is the difficult miracle of Black poetry in America, that we persist. Published or not, and loved or unloved, we persist." We come together tonight not only to recognize that this evening's honorees are indeed published, with more than 125 books to their collective credit, we come together not only to demonstrate that they are indeed loved by generations of poets who they have mentored and influenced, by the students whose minds they've shaped, and the readers whose lives they've transformed. Indeed, we come to celebrate that they, as do we all, persist. We persist, difficult miracles all, lifting our faces unashamed, swaying in wicked grace. We persist, and that is an occasion worthy of celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, McKinley. You know, we need our scholars, right? There's a lot of beautiful scholars in the audience. Let's give it up for our scholars. It's not just about the poets. We need our scholars. The thing I neglected to say is that I'm really honored to be here. And I love Joanne V. Gabin. And I hope her husband's not around. There you are! No. But if some of you know the backstory of the struggles of her trying to create Furious Flower. And it's heavy duty. I'm not going to go into that right now, but what I want to say is that it all boils down to one thing. And her connection to the poets, historically, right, generation to generation, and the whole notion of, if you build it, they will come. Now, I want to introduce someone who I've known for close to 90 years. I think she came to New York because of me. Now she likes Terrence Hayes. I don't know what the hell's going on. I practically breastfed her when she came to New York, you know what I mean? I nurtured her, you know what I mean? But I've known Jess for like 30 plus years, maybe 40, I don't know. But she is timeless and ageless and beautiful, and she has boundless energy, like Joanne has, like Brenda Green has, like all these institution builders have. But I'll read you the formal introduction. I just wanted to say that personally. And can we give a round of applause for her dress? She's killing the game with that dress. Now, if you look at her bio, Jessica is all in lowercase, and then there's a capital C for care, and then lowercase Moore. I don't know where that shit came from. Jessica Care Moore is one of the leading voices of her generation. What generation is that? An award-winning poet, recording artist, book publisher, activist, cultural artist, curator, and filmmaker. She is executive producer and founder of Black Women Rock, Daughters of Betty, a 20-year-old rock and roll institution, concert and empowerment weekend. And she is the founder of the literacy-driven 501c3, the Moore Art House, her nonprofit organization in Detroit dedicated to elevating literacy through the arts in neighborhoods and schools. Moore is author of 5 books of poetry, most recently, We Want Our Bodies Back, HarperCollins 2020, which won the American Library Association Black Caucus Poetry Honor. Her first feature film, He Looked Like a Postcard, will be featured in Brooklyn at Real Sisters Film Festival. In 2024, my girl Jessica Moore was appointed the Poet Laureate of Detroit.
Oh, I love Tony. So Tony mentioned people not being here anymore. So I'm working on my next collection of poems. My next book is No Dead Goats, G-O-A-T-S, and it's a series of poems for different goats in my life. And this one's for my Baba Amiri Baraka. Are you a shout or a holla? A 3-bar, 12, or 8-bar blues? Depends on what year you enter this language, this atmosphere where holds of sunlight and daybreak and heartaches. This is the blues for the anchored dreamer, a work song, a black nerd, freedom spiritual, a whisper, a code. A declaration of sovereignty, an antebellum blues. A 125th Street rumble beneath your walk still felt. The after hours, the entrance point, uptown, the boogie down Bronx. Maybe your head nod is 50 years old. Maybe you a 1968 soul bird, 3 feet high and rising in 1989, hip-hop royalty, resting real lyrics, Dave the Dove. The stakes is still high here. Dilla, Tribe, KRS, Big L, Run DMC, Rakim, Nas, Lauren, Missy Elliott, Bahamadia, Left Eye, Ladybug, Mecca, Pharrell, Outkast, Killer Mike, T.I., Black Star, the cassette tape, the breakdance, the graffiti, the DJ, Baten, DMX, Zaki, Morrison, Sekou, Betty Davis, Ruby, and Ozzy, No Dead Goats. It's in the water. It's in the secret handshakes. It's in the undertow. It's in the forgotten stories. Welcome, ancestor Amiri Baraka. Somebody burn the sage. Disguise yourself as anything but yourself. Welcome, survivors. Tony Medina, Kwame Dawes, Nikki Feeney, Patricia Smith, drummers, poets, architects of sound, beatbox, moonwalk, hopscotch, double dutch, just enough, pieces of a man. Gil Scott lives in the lines of our hands, no dead goats. Poets of the apocalypse now. Torchbearers for the forgotten. Shout out to the liars. Much love to the letter writers, the organizers, the rebellions, Detroit, Chicago, Newark. How will you new Negroes find your freedom without Google? There are no fares to pay. No one owns any shares. There's no board of directors, no new age gatekeepers, no NFTs. We are not interested in white silence or heroes for that matter. We are not creative abolitionists, black as French Cadillacs. We are freedom fighters. We did not lie down our bodies in the name of Holy Ghost. We are not ghosts. We just the ones that never left. Refuse to be plowed over, renamed, rebranded. We ban all words beginning with R-E except revolution. New is a code word for erasure. New is a code word for erasure. Our Father, who art, who draw, who paint, who resurrect colors into black cannon, into spray paint ammunition. They kingdom come. Where you from? Who's the water girl? Where's the offerings for Yemaya? When the monarchy gonna melt down all their Middle Passage pound, everything they stole from Africa into bright, pretty pearls for all our illuminated daughters of the diaspora. Now that's a Jane Cortez blues poem. Where are the Spitfire spirituals, the poems about the ones who did not go out peacefully? We didn't ask the water to save us, but water knew. All these fine mermaids were born Atlantic black in 1619. Nina Simone, no drag, and held captive on the bottom of a nightmare ship. We do not want to hear how you saved us. I'm not interested in your gaze. You surprised I'm not here to entertain you? These blues never leave you. This blackness never betray you. We here to the finish line of all finish lines, baby, till eternity. No dead goats. Long live Amiri Baraka. I love you, Amiri. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. This is a safe space for poets like me. I'm not safe in every room, so I'm always happy to come here, and I'll come back, and I'll be back here in 10 more years, God willing. Thank you. So I think we're going to eat. So tables will be released for, I have to do a poem and then do this, so fucking weird, but anyway. Because I'm somewhere else, I'm like gone, like it's completely somewhere else, but I'm gonna pretend like I'm here. Tables will be released for the buffet by the catering staff. Please follow their direction while you wait. Please feel free to visit the cash bar, y'all know what to do, and enjoy each other's company, as we will. Please note that if you have reported a dietary restriction or allergy, because poets don't be eating stuff, you know, just let us know if there's some questions or concerns, and ask the catering staff, and we'll help you with the buffet. All right, y'all, enjoy, have dinner. Love you. Are y'all enjoying your dinner? Can we give some love to our beautiful pianist who's been playing throughout the dinner? David Berry on piano. Thank you, David. Thank you to Megan and her team for the catering. Y'all enjoying dinner? The food is good, yeah? And in 1995, when I moved to Brooklyn, Tony was not lying. He lied about a lot of things, but that was not one of them. I did move to Brooklyn, and I was looking for, lying. I was looking for Tony Medina. I went through the New Eurekan Poetry Anthology Aloud. I was in Detroit. Poets didn't really come through there. I had seen Reggie Gaines on Arsenio Hall when I was in 7th grade. And I knew who Paul Beatty was from MTV, straight up, and Tracy Morris. And so the anthology, I looked in the anthology and I said, I'm going to find all these poets, I'm going to make them my friends. And I did. And Tony was one of those people. He was he's one of my first editors of my first book, and he encouraged me to start my own publishing house. And I love him. We joke a lot, but we love each other deep. And I'm going to read his bio. Tony Medina was born in the South Bronx, raised in the Throgs Neck housing projects, and is a veteran of the United States Army. I don't know, crazy, right? Like, for real? All right. All right. Recently appointed Associate Chair and Director of Creative Writing in the Department of Literature and Writing at Howard University, HU. He holds a master's and PhD from Binghamton University, SUNY, a multi-genre author, editor of 25, dang, Tony, award-winning books for adults and young people. Medina's work appears in over 160 anthologies and journals. Among Medina's, which we call him, Medina's recent title are the Black Lives Matter Anthology, Resisting Arrest, Poems to Stretch the Sky, anthology Death with Occasional Smiling, poetry, 13 Ways of Looking at a Black Boy, I Am Alfonso Jones, one of my favorites, Letters to Santa. It's not on here, but that's my jam. It needs to be animated. We should republish it. Rock the Bells for Hip Hop at 50, and his Gaza Suite, Because the Sky on Sable Books 2024. And you got those, right? In your car. Yeah, because if the bookstore didn't get them, we still brought them, so we clear. So please help me welcome my dear friend, Tony Medina.
Thank you. Before I read, I have to make an announcement. A young poet came across the pond to be with us today, and it's his birthday. Please, let's give a little happy birthday, Stevie Wonder style, to Jason Allen Passant. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. And then we have another poet. This is a poet laureate. Amanda Johnston's birthday today. Amanda, where you at? Where art thou? I think she's still trying to get, oh, there she is right there. Let's give it up. Happy birthday to you. This is the thing. It's hard to be an artist. It's hard to be an institution builder. It's just hard to do things in this life without a partner. And Joanne V. Gabin has that partner in Brother Gabin. Let's give it up for Brother Gabin. And there's so many luminaries in the audience that I can't mention everybody. But there's one that really stands out in my mind, because he's a He's a legendary figure and been a legend for a long time. Back in the day, when back in the day was back in the day, he was rolling with a cat named Leroy Jones. His teacher was Sterling Allen Brown. He has a new book published that you got to pick up. Please, let's give it up for the great A.B. Spellman. This poem is in a new collection called Because the Sky. When the students were protesting about the genocide in Gaza, and the internet was silent except for Jessica on Instagram, and I had to process all this stuff. So between semester breaks, I wrote these poems, a whole collection of poems about Gaza. And the first opening suite is called 13 Ways of Looking at a Palestinian. And this is the 13th piece. And it's special because I met the great Nancy Morejon, the national poet of Cuba, who was mentored by Nicholas Guillen at Howard University in April, and E. Ethel Miller was on the panel to talk about her work and engage her in Q&A. And I sent her my book to Casa de las Americas. She emailed me, and she said she really likes this poem and she wants to translate it. We are drowning in the sand of sorrow. There is no one left to bury us all. Will our children live to see tomorrow? Our sky goes black and continues to fall. Hospitals engulfed in flames, children trapped in the arms of smoke. Death eats what's left of hope. Blood in the doorframe, lightning bullets clapped, hitting flesh precisely as if from a scope. We are drowning in the sea of our tears. Everything is in ruins. Our earth razed, all is broken, tooth bricks and white ash smears. Even the air we breathe has us all dazed. Death and disease swirl about us in a haze. What's left to ask, but are these our last days? And before I read this last little piece for my honorees, who are poets and professors, I just want to make sure that you realize that we got to get Kamala in that fucking office immediately. So you better get out and vote and get your students to vote. And did you like the way she beat that ass at the debate? And we need to support our Haitian sisters and brothers at this moment being utilized as a scapegoat once again, because they were the first one to beat that slave master ass. What I tell my students on the first day of class: when your professor is older than hip-hop and tries to bust a move, chances are he will resemble an Australian breakdancer. His hip may even hop and roll away like a hubcap. When your professor is older than hip-hop and tries to bust that move he hasn't since back in the day was back in the day, and his back didn't bark like a junkyard dog or whine or wail like a cat on a hot tin roof, chances are he'll need you to call the paramedics or get a team of engineers to scrape his ass up off the floor with a spatula. Thank you.
Look. Y'all, Tony Medina. I guess this is me, but stand here with me. You're a nut. Tonight's awardees were selected through a collaborative process between the Furious Flower Advisory Board and the Furious Flower Poetry Center Executive Director. Citations will be read by members of the Advisory Board, and awards will be presented by the Executive Director, Lauren Elaine, like Elaine Locke. I've been practicing. Lauren, I love you. Our first group of awardees and presenters are Patricia Smith. Presented by McKinley Melton. You do this one.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
Come on, show your age.
I need me specs.
I don't need those. Go.
Oh,
you have to date younger.
This fantastic brother, Tim Sabos.
Presented by Nate Marshall. Nope.
Nii Usundare, presented by
Gebenga
Adesina. That sounds like Medina. And the great Harriet. Is Harriet Mullen here? I didn't see her.
Mullen.
Harriet Mullen, presented by Malin Pereira, I think. I hope I didn't butcher your name.
We're butchering together.
Where's the rest? Oh, that's it.
Oh.
For now. So who's next? You introduced the...
Yeah. Okay, y'all clap while they come on stage. Lauren. Okay. Yeah, Lauren, look. Lauren's dress is dressing.
Yes! Give it up!
So good evening again. Before I read the citation, I will just briefly say that as the current chair of the advisory board, I had the ability to facilitate how we were going to go about presenting these, and I may have signed up to take Patricia Smith's name before I distributed the list to everyone else. And in part, this is because I am a longtime fan and admirer. And I will say, if you all ever want to just stun a classroom into silence, give them a Patricia Smith poem. Patricia Smith is a poet and artist whose evocative work in performance and in print conjures memory, sparks imagination, and stirs the senses, calling for an often uneasy confrontation with one's society, past and present, and ultimately oneself. Smith was born in 1965 in Chicago, Illinois. She was educated at Southern Illinois University and Northwestern University, ultimately finding herself enraptured by the power of spoken word poetry while attending an event at a Chicago blues bar where Gwendolyn Brooks was also present. Smith went on to become a 4-time individual champion of the National Poetry Slam, the most successful poet in the competition's history. Smith was also a featured performer in the 1996 documentary Slam Nation, a film that has been credited with ushering in a new era of poetry. Smith's experience with spoken word has functioned at the foundation of a decades-long career as a poet, playwright, editor, teacher, and mentor of generations of poets and writers. She has been a Cave Canem faculty member, professor in the Lewis Center for the Arts at Princeton University, distinguished professor for the City University of New York, and a faculty member in the Vermont College of Fine Arts postgraduate residency program. Smith, in addition to being widely published and anthologized, is the author of 9 books of poetry, a children's book, a book of history, Africans in America, America's Journey Through Slavery, which was commissioned to accompany a PBS series of the same name, and 2 edited volumes, crime fiction anthology Staten Island Noir, and the Golden Shovel anthology, new poems honoring Gwendolyn Brooks, co-edited with Peter Kahn and Ravi Shankar. Smith's poetry collections have received numerous accolades. Among these honors, Incendiary Art won the Kingsley Tufts Poetry Award and was a finalist for the 2018 Pulitzer Prize. Should Have Been Jimmy Savannah won the Lenore Marshall Prize from the Academy of American Poets, and Blood Dazzler was a National Book Award finalist. Throughout Smith's illustrious career, she has also been honored with the Fuller Award, the Aiken Taylor Award, and the Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize for Lifetime Achievement. She is a member of the Academy of Arts and Sciences, a Guggenheim Fellow, a Civitelian, a National Endowment for the Arts grant recipient, and a 2-time winner of the Pushcart Prize. In recognition of her vast contributions to the worlds of Black poetry, we are honored to present Patricia Smith with a 2024 Furious Flower Lifetime Achievement Award. And I'll ask her to come join us on stage.
This worked better than mine. Yeah, that's about it. We made it easy. We're working it out. Thank you. Thank you all.
Greetings. Hello. Tim Seibles, esteemed poet and professor, embodies the qualities that emanate from his kind spirit, prodigious intelligence, and his undeniable cool. It's true. Tim Seibles was born in Philadelphia in 1955 to a high school English teacher and a biochemist for the Department of Agriculture. He holds a BA from Southern Methodist University and an MFA from Vermont College. He started his long and distinguished academic career teaching English at the high school level for a decade before leaving the classroom to pursue his own MFA education. In 1995, he joined the faculty at Old Dominion University, where he enjoyed a decades-long career and where he currently holds the title of Professor Emeritus after retiring in 2019. He has also served at Antioch University, the University of Southern Maine Stone Coast MFA program, and has served as faculty for Cave Canem and the Hurston Wright Foundation. From 2016 to 2018, Seibles served as the Poet Laureate for this Commonwealth of Virginia. Professor Seibles describes himself as compelled by many subjects: memory, sexuality, race, the realm of the sacred, family, love, the process of becoming a self, and consciousness itself, all of which finds voice in his poetry. Seibles' work, including 7 full-length poetry collections and 2 chapbooks, have been widely anthologized and highly lauded. Included in those collections are the most recent, Voodoo Libretto, New and Selected Poems, and Fast Animal, which won the Theodore Roethke Memorial Poetry Prize and the Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Award for Poetry, and was a finalist for the National Book Award. Of Seibles' One Turn Around the Sun, Kwame Dawes wrote, "These are profoundly vulnerable poems that are distinguished by the risk and daring that we expect from our best poets. And he is one of our best poets. In April 2024, Siebels released an album of selected works accompanied by jazz bass in partnership with musician and composer Chris Bridge, titled Something We Did. Siebels has been recognized with fellowships from the National Endowment of the Arts and Provincetown Fine Arts Work Center, as well as an honorary doctorate from Misericordia University. Siebels has read his work across the US and internationally. He has mentored hundreds of students and influenced many more readers and listeners. In recognition of his vast contributions to the worlds of Black poetry, we are honored to present Tim Siebels with a 2024 Furious Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award.
Sorry, I did it. Okay, don't worry about it. We're just gonna skip that part. Oh, oops, sorry.
I was gonna take a photo still.
Okay. I'm hold my stocking, Siebels.
I'm not going to talk long. I just want to say how much it means to me to be here among all of you. And so many of you have influenced the way I think about poetry. Patricia Smith blurbed my first book. And of course, I was reading Cornelius way before I met him. You know, and that's just two people, but so many of you here have meant so much to me, certainly as a human being and as a poet, but certainly as a Black man in this country. So I really, really, really appreciate all of you being here, and I'm very touched that this honor was given to me.
Hello there. How's it going? I'm Gbenga Additional. Oh, actually, Dr. Gbenga Additional, new PhD. Thank you, thank you. The first ever book of poem that I bought with my own money when I was around age 10 was a book of poems by Niyi Oshundari. In Nigeria, and I suppose in a lot of countries, you could dream that you wanted to write poems, and your parents naturally expected that you would do that in the evening, you know, after returning from your job as a doctor. Like, yeah, write poems, but in the evening, you know. It was people like Professor Niyi Oshundari that were first models of possibility that you could live a life of language, you know, just dedicated to language fully like that. It belongs to that generation that came immediately after Wole Soyinka and Chinua Achebe, and it was a very difficult time. Because whereas Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka and Ngugi wa Thiong'o and co began their work in a time of great possibility, you know, utopia, the collapse of empires, people like Professor Oshundari began their work in a time of great despair. Coups everywhere, the civil wars everywhere. It was in the middle of that time when the great establishments and the great empires had started to treat these African countries as pariahs, where nobody will publish you because your country is just full of war and disease. It was in the middle of that it began his work, and that's why it's so important to me. Niyi Oshundari, Nigerian poet, dramatist, linguist, and scholar, in a world of narrow nationalism, is a true citizen of the world and a global poet. In his body of work, he has withdrawn and created new aesthetic possibilities for generations of African and African diasporic poets. Born on March 12, 1947 in Ikere Ekiti, southwest Nigeria, he grew up on a farm with the rhythm of work and the seasons, developing an intimate relationship with nature, rivers, and mountains and sentient beings long before this fad of echo poetry. Just saying. He was educated on 3 continents. His bachelor's degree from the University of Ibadan, the famous University of Ibadan, Nigeria, the alma mater of Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka. His master's degree from the University of Leeds in the UK, and his PhD from York University, Toronto, Canada. Within his work, over 17 collections, but especially in the Eyes of the Earth, Oshundare brilliantly fuses the spiritual and poetic practice of his people and their Yoruba language, our Yoruba language, with other canonical practices from around the world in order to create lyrical meditations that are at once ecstatic and exuberant, though not without melancholy, and prayer for repair for our broken ecosystem. In short, is a blues man. Oshundare shares the intensely passionate testimony of surviving the floods of Hurricane Katrina, which also destroyed his books and manuscripts. He wrote a book called In a City Without People, chronicling that experience. What has surprised me is the joy, is the unbrokenness, is the exuberance of language with which he continues to do his work and his strengthened resolve. In a career spanning 5 decades and across 18 poetry books, he's been published and performed in several languages, including French, Italian, Spanish, and Dutch. He has won numerous accolades, including the Commonwealth Poetry Prize, the NOMA Award, this is Africa's most prestigious book award, and the Fallon Nichols Award for Human Rights and Literature. Oshundare has held numerous teaching positions all over the world. He has received honorary Doctor of Letters from the University of Ibadan, the University of Toulouse in France, and the Franklin Pierce University in New Hampshire. Annually in the month of May, the Niyi Oshundare International Poetry Festival is held in his honor in Nigeria. He has his own festival. In recognition of his vast contributions to the world of Black poetry, we are honored to present Niyi Oshundare with the 2004 Furious Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award. Niyi Oshundare.
Mo dúpẹ́ o, ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ púpọ̀. That's Yoruba. Translation is thank you very much.
Oh, it's bright. Hi, everybody. I'm Malin Pereira, former chair of the advisory board for Furious Flower. And McKinley's doing a great job, and I'm very glad he's chair now. I was so happy to be asked to write this citation for Harriet Mullen because I so enjoyed interviewing her for my book of interviews with many of the poets in this room. And it was a delight, an absolute delight. I think she just said when I was talking to her now, we got deep. So we did. Harriet Mullen is a poet who asks us to consider provocative questions about identity, technique, race, audience, language, and the place of theory in African American poetry. Born in 1953 in Florence, Alabama, Harriet Mullen found her love of language and writing early on. Her mother taught her how to read and write before the first grade, and letters were her means of communication with her father after her parents divorced. She earned a BA in English from the University of Texas, Austin, and an English MA and PhD from the University of California, Santa Cruz. Mullen's 9 poetry collections vary considerably in voice, technique, and themes, with her first book, Tall Tree Woman, 1981, focusing on racially centered themes and what she terms the aesthetic tradition of the authentic voice. Her next 2 books, Trimmings, 1991, and she's given me permission to call it Supermarket, although my students were delighted to call it Sperm Kit. 1992, are decidedly experimental, showing influences of Oulipo, language poetry, literary theory, and Gertrude Stein. Concerned to have lost the Black audience she enjoyed in Tall Tree Woman, Mullen sought to deliberatively join 2 traditions in her 4th collection, Muse and Drudge, 1995, through the figures of Sappho and Sapphire. Her 4th full-length collection, Sleeping with the Dictionary, 2002, continues her play with language and commitment to social critique. In Urban Tumbleweed, Notes from a Tanka Diary, 2013, Mullen adapts a traditional Japanese verse form. Her poetry, a notable body of literary criticism, revitalized common topics such as the oral tradition, folklore, the blues, and experimental writing in Black poetry. Mullen has received multiple honors and awards with fellowships from the Academy of American Poets, the Guggenheim Foundation, the Susan B. Anthony Institute for Women's Studies, the Foundation for Contemporary Arts, the Helen Wolitzer Foundation, and the Texas Institute of Letters. Her work also garnered a Gertrude Stein Award in Innovative American Poetry, the Jackson Poetry Prize, a Penned Beyond Margins Award, and a United States Artist Fellowship. She is Professor of English and African American Studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. So, in recognition of her contributions to the worlds of Black poetry, we are honored to present Harriet Mullen with the 2024 Furious Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award.
Patricia Smith wanted to say something.
Patricia, can you come up here?
And so I think we should give her some, we're gonna make some space right now for this legend that wanted to, she didn't know. She was first.
I was told not to talk, and that usually doesn't work. Just briefly, my mother died on March 15th, and she was someone who did not believe in the power of poetry to help someone move sanely from day to day. She didn't believe that it's a way to make a living. She thought that working at the post office was a way to make the living. So she died without ever knowing how much of the world opened up for me because of poetry. And I want to thank everyone for helping me redefine the idea of family. I love you all.
So we're going to do the musician, right? Yeah, that was heavy. Thank you. Where am I?
David Barry.
Oh, sorry.
I have to help the elder.
I'm a little old. No. You know, we've been graced with such beautiful music this evening. Can we give a round of applause for the brother? David Berry's performances as a concert pianist have been featured in prestigious venues such as Carnegie Hall, the Kimmel Center, and in live broadcasts of WQXR Radio in New York. He is a resident member of the Harlem Chamber Players, Ritz Chamber Players. In the core ensemble, Berry is chair of the music department and interim associate dean for the School of Theology, Humanities, and the Performing Arts at Eastern Mennonite University. I passed that on the way. I was going to become a Mennonite just by driving here. He also serves on the Artistic Programs Committee for the Gateways Music Festival at the Eastman School of Music, an annual festival which celebrates the contributions of musicians of African descent to classical music and features over 120 players from major American orchestras, university faculties, and industry professionals from across the United States. Berry received his Bachelor of Music with high distinction from the Eastman School of Music and Master's and Doctor of Musical Arts degrees in piano performance from the Juilliard School. Let's give it up for David Berry. He's gonna play.
He was playing with y'all during dinner. He was just toying with us. Yeah. He was messing with y'all. They wouldn't play this little nice and easy.
Gavin looked like he could play the piano with that outfit.
Okay, David Barry. Yeah, one more time, David Barry. Beautiful. Wow. Come over here. Our next group of awardees and presenters are, I'm so excited. This is a great group.
Where are the names?
This jacket is killing everybody right now.
Let me just say this name right
No,
here.
I'm saying it.
No, I know him.
I know him longer. I don't know who knows him longer, but I'm prettier than you.
Oh, wait a minute.
It depends on who's looking.
I used to be pretty Tony until the pandemic. Now I'm fat Tony.
I cannot.
Go ahead.
E. Ethelbert Miller. That jacket is everything. Presented by my brother Patrick Oliver. Hold on 1 second. Lorna Goodison. Presented by Shauna Morgan. Nikki Feeney. Help me with Meta. Presented by
This is my office mate,
Meta Iowa Jones. We love her.
And this cat is probably the coolest cat in the universe.
My first teacher at Kavikan.
Cornelius
Edie. Presented by Susan Facknitz. Come on up, Patrick.
And me and Patrick go way back.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum, Jumbo, buenas noches, and for the young folks out there, what up with you? When corporate America, the aerospace industry, told me they no longer needed my services and they downsized me, I retreated to my home state of Little Rock, Arkansas, to take a break. And while there, I started to work with young people. And we invited writers and authors in to come and present and talk about the creative writing process. E. Ethelbert Miller was one of those writers we invited to Little Rock, Arkansas. But he said something to me that's very important, particularly for black men. He knew I got laid off in corporate America. And he asked me, how's your health, brother? How's your health? Because when black men are laid off, and women, from corporate America position, we lose our health care. And we left up to it. Brother Miller, thanks to President Obama, I got Obamacare now. E. Ethelbert Miller is a magnificent storyteller, writer, literary activist, poet, and reminds us that words can produce joyful thoughts and memories of the past. He was born in New York City, in the South Bronx, the youngest of 3 children. He graduated from Howard University with a degree in African American Studies and became the first member of his family to graduate from college. Miller later became the director of the African American Resource Center at Howard University and serves in other capacities for the 4 decades. He supports a variety of various institutions and organizations as board member, faculty member, editor, writing residence, and a radio host as well in the DC area. His commitment to poetry is second to none. The brother does it. He's a loving husband, a caring father, and a proud grandfather. He's the author of 13 books of poetry, including Andromeda, Where Are the Love Poems for Dictators, How We Sleep in the Nights We Don't Make Love. He's also editor of 3 poetry anthologies, one In Search of Colors Everywhere, which was honored with the PEN Oakland Josephine Myers Award. He's also written 2 memoirs. I love this one, Following Words. It's a beautiful piece. I recommend brothers definitely go get it. Was selected as one of the One Book, One City, Washington, D.C. program for public libraries. Willa Brooks said about E. Ethelbert Miller, she said he's one of the most magnificent and influential poets of our time. Miller has widely been celebrated for his work, including such honors as the O.B. Harrison Jr. Poetry Prize, the Columbia Merit Award, the Stephen Henderson Poetry Award. His adopted home of Washington, D.C. has bestowed numerous honors and awards upon him, including the Mayor's Art Award for Literature and Public Humanities Award and the Mayor pronounced E. Ethelbert Miller Day in 1979. In 2015, he was inducted to the D.C. Hall of Fame. Let's give him up for that. And the brother gets awards from other places. The mayor of Baltimore, honored him with the E. Ethelbert Miller Day. And the brother made it all the way down south to Jackson, Tennessee, where they declared it E. Ethelbert Miller Day. He's all over the place. And that was in 2001. And as well as he's always accepting opportunities to expand his platform as an activist. That's how I knew that brother as a literary activist. And he's been honored in the White House as well in 2003. Let's give it up for that. In 2003, he was honored in the White House. In recognition of his vast contributions to the world of Black poetry, we are honored to present the E. Ethelbert Miller with the 2024 Fierce Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award. Come up here, brother.
Thank you for this award. As a writer and literary activist, it has always been my intention to honor the writers who came before me and to help build institutions and community for those writers my life might inspire. I began this journey of the poet in 1969, a journey that was an attempt to understand my own heart. I wrote out of love, a love for language, a love for my people, a love for our beautiful, glittering, mysterious blackness. In accepting this award and honor, I want to thank the writers who took the time to help me on my journey. Writers who gave me more than words on a page, but gave me that needed encouragement and advice to help me become a writer. So I thank Sterling Brown, Norman Jordan, Steve Cannon, C.L.R. James, Leon Damas, Amazu Bolton, Eugene Redmond, Jane Cortez, Gwendolyn Brooks, Askia Muhammad Touré, Wanda Coleman, Lucille Clifton, Amiri Baraka, Haki Madhubuti, and my beloved June Jordan. I hope while this year continues to help me rise, I can continue to live their legacy.
Hello. Good evening, I'm Shauna Morgan. When your sorrow obscures the skies, other women like me will rise. These closing lines to Lorna Goodison's poem, Nanny, are a promise, a message of hope in times of abject despair. They're a sustenance, and we continue to harvest again and again from the provision ground of her poetry. As a daughter of Jamaica, I'm very honored to present her to you. Lorna Goodison is a globally renowned poet whose words, linguistically rich and sonorous in musicality, illuminates history, family, culture, and the contours of womanhood. Goodison was born on Emancipation Day in Jamaica. She is Professor Emerita at the University of Michigan, where she was the Lemuel A. Johnson Professor of English and African and Afro-American Studies. She has honorary doctorates from Durham University in England and the University of Toronto in Canada. The first woman to be appointed Poet Laureate of Jamaica, she held the position from 2017 to 2020 and was visiting writer-in-residence at the University of the West Indies, Mona, in the Department of Literatures in English. Goodison was elected to the Academy of Arts and Sciences in 2020 and became a Royal Society for Literature International Writer in 2023. A trained visual artist who studied at the Jamaica School of Art, as well as at the Art Students League of New York, under Jacob Lawrence, y'all. Goodison embraces the painterly aesthetic in her writing. Still a practicing artist, she has said, however, that, quote, "Poetry has been my constant companion and friend. This companionship has resulted in 14 books of poetry, many of which feature the poet's original artwork. Goodison's literary corpus includes I Am Becoming My Mother, winner of the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, and Erica Bessa, which won the OCM Bocas Prize for Poetry. Goodison is also the author of 3 short story collections, as well as From Harvey River, a memoir of my mother and her land, which was the recipient of British Columbia's National Award for Canadian Nonfiction, and Redemption Ground, a stunning collection of essays. She is a recipient of the Institute of Jamaica's Musgrave Gold Medal and Yale's Wyndham Campbell Literature Prize. She received the Jamaican Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander, as well as the Queen's Gold Medal for Poetry. In recognition of her vast contributions in the worlds of Black poetry, we are honored. I am honored to present Lorna Goodison with a 2024 Furious Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. No hugging on the way. All right, Dress. Oh, stop now. Stop.
Good evening, everyone. So, when I was given the honor to do the citation for Nikki, beloved, love child, Finney, I was both exhilarated and intimidated. How do you give a speech for someone who has 1,000 hits for their acceptance speech for the National Book Award and counting? Like 2 years ago, somebody even did bars on it. So I saw her at a reading, there's Alexis, for her book on Audre Lorde, and they did a conversation together, and I told her the truth. I was like, super excited, I'll see you next month at Fierce Flower, but I am terrified. And it is her kindness. She looked at me like, we ain't got time for that. You're gonna do just fine. Thank you. Thank you for that. We begin with her story. Nikki Lovechild Finney is a poet whose 4 decades, we're Fierce Flower 4, so I love it, of literary and artistic activism, Black, lesbian, world-making, and love songs for Black families give shape to her engagements as a writer, as an educator, and as a storyteller. Born to the earnest judge, Ernest A. Finney Jr., and the educator, Francis Davenport Finney, in 1957, in a small coastal town called Conway, South Carolina. What was in the water in the Waccamaw River in Conway, Nikki? We may not know, but everybody, those 1,000 people who have watched or read your speech reprinted in Head Off in Flint, know that they climbed out of that wet, cold Atlantic you wrote out of that's 14 miles away from your hometown. Finney is the middle daughter of 3 children, and she became a lexicographer, instructing readers to know southing is not a verb. Her studies at Talladega College, HBCUs, and, right, you know, for those at Howard, Atlanta University brought her to the mentorship of Tony Cade and Gloria Wade, Bambara and Dr. Gales. She, in turn, has activated many young minds and hearts as a founding mentor, there you are, Frank, of the Afri-Latin Poets, and at Fire and Ink Literary Festival centering GLBTQ authors. That's where I first met you when I found my baby Black queer freedom. And as a faculty member at Cave Canem, Berea College, Smith College, and the University of Kentucky. And currently as the John H. Bennett Jr. Chair in Creative Writing and Southern Literature at the University of South Carolina, where she holds a Carolina Distinguished Professorship. Finney has authored 6 books, including On Wings Made of Gauze, 2011 National Book Award winner, aforementioned, Head Off and Split, and frequently mentioned, her newest, Love Child's Hotbed, I love this title, of occasional poetry, poems, and artifacts. A finalist for the 2020 Los Angeles Times Book Prize. She also edited The Ringing Ear, Black Poets Lean South, a Cave Canem anthology, and I'll add here in her introduction to that anthology, Nikki, you remember, you said it, Black people plus America plus poetry sometimes means not being taken seriously. Not so here at Furious Flower. Thanks to you, Dr. Gabin. Thanks to you, Dr. Eileen. Thanks to you, McKinley. Thanks to all of you in this room today. Her poetry and prose perform an archive of Black memory, revealing the joy of Black girl world and the tenderness of sweet Black boys. the sacredness of our natural world, the marvelous migration stories in Jacob Lawrence paintings, the miracle of birth through poems based on art and sculptures from Africa to America. Finney has also been elected a chancellor of the American Academy of Poets and inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. She is the recipient of many honors, more than I can continue to enumerate here, but I'll include a few. The PEN American Open Book Award, the Benjamin Franklin Award for Poetry, the GCLS Literary Award, the Ike Taylor Award from the Sewanee Review and the University of the South. And congrats, Jericho, if you're here, as the newest recipient of that Ike Taylor Award, as well as awards from the Kentucky Arts Council and Kentucky Foundation for Women, and the Academy of American Poets Wallace Stevens Award for Poetry. Nikki, you be poet flame. You wrote a poem called Flare in praise and for a praise freedom song for Marissa Alexander, who is free now. You wrote a poem called Flare because you're our incendiary literary genius. In recognition of your vast contributions in the worlds of Black poetry, we here are honored to present you with a 2024 Furious Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you.
Bring me all this way and not think I'm gonna say nothing. My bad. You got an hour? When I was 20 years old, I didn't know 100 poets could be in this, Black poets could be in a room together. And when I turned 30, I made my way to Furious Flower 2. And Joanne Gabin, we will continue to tell you how grateful we are. But the permission you have given us, we live in a world where we are taught that being a poet, you are in your house alone doing your work. And that is not the African way. And we must do our work, yes, but we must also stand in a circle together. And you taught us that, and you bring us together in that way, and I am forever grateful to you for that. I gotta tell you this one story. Don't let the music come on and like to rush you off the stage. But at that Furious Flower #2, I was on stage doing what we're gonna do for the rest of the week, right? And getting ready to read some poems and do what I came to do nervously, and Lucille Clifton walked into the room. And I had never seen her alive and in person before. And this is what that moment gave me. I immediately turned my paper over the poem and started writing her a love letter. And I said, "Dear Miss Clifton," and I didn't know where it was gonna go, but instead of doing what I was supposed to do, I read that letter to Miss Clifton, who was sitting in row 5. And at the end of that session, she found me. She didn't let me leave the room. This is what we do. We find each other. We hold each other's hand, because when we leave, we go home to those separate places, but we need to carry these 300 people in this room with us. And she said, "Girl, you're a poet." And nobody else had to tell me that for the rest of my life. So it changed my life. And Joanne, I thank you for that. I thank you for bringing us together here in this room and continuing that. But I got to say one more thing. What Furious Flower is doing now by bringing the Black diasporic poet tradition together in one room is the richest thing I've seen in 1,000 years. They tell us we don't have connections with each other once we cross the water, but oh my gosh.
So I just have one question for Lauren, and that is, whose idea was it to put me behind Maida? I mean, she's a finisher, right? But here I am, and I'm very happy to be here. When I was 17 years old, Cornelius Eady came to read at Old Dominion University. I was a first-year student. And I had been writing poetry for years, but never showing it to anybody. So I went to his reading, and I was completely blown away. I had never heard poetry like that. I didn't know what it was, and it stayed with me. And I went to the library, and I took out all of the books they had of his, and I considered stealing them. But I was afraid that if I did, the university would find out that I didn't have a high school diploma and throw me out. So I returned them. And a few years later, as I was working on my MFA, he came to the University of Virginia, which at that time, apologies to Rita, it's no longer like that, was trapped in a self-reflexive lyric box. And so that was the poetry that was championed. And his reading, again, was just nothing like that. And so I had to go back and take all of his books out of the library again. I was putting myself through college. But anyways, it changed me as a poet. It changed me as a person. So I'm honored today to be doing this citation. Cornelius Eady's poems explore and illuminate history with wit, anger, and truth-telling, drawing readers into the narrative and lyric moments within his work. Eady is one of the founders of Cave Common, one of the most important supporting institutions for African American poetry, which has worked to, quote, remedy the underrepresentation and isolation of African American poets in the literary landscape. They're kind of our co-workers in that. He, along with Troy Derricotte, created a haven, a practical source of funding, support, and creative community that fostered the explosion of Black voices in the literary scene in the 90s and beyond. That commitment to community is echoed in his own work, in his touchstone books like Cartoons, Victims of the Latest Dance Craze, still my favorite title for a book, The Gathering of My Name, Brutal Imagination, and A Hard-Headed Weather. He has published 8 books of poetry, one of which won the Lamont Prize from the Academy of American Poets. Another was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry, and another was a finalist for the National Book Award. His awards include fellowships from the NEA, the Guggenheim Foundation, and the Rockefeller Foundation. He continues his lifetime of achievements as the John C. Hodges Chair of Excellence in Poetry at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. But his groundworking work is not limited to poetry. Eady has also written the libretto for the opera Running Man which was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in Drama. And his play, Brutal Imagination, won Newsday's Oppenheimer Award. In addition, he leads the Cornelius Eady Group, which soulfully blends his poetry with music. They have performed at the Big Ears Music Festival, the Sunken Gardens Poetry Festival, and at the National Portrait Gallery. In recognition of his vast contributions to the world of Black poetry, we are honored to present Cornelius Eady with a 2024 Furious Flower Poetry Center Lifetime Achievement Award.
I'm going to take you off the hook, okay, about stealing poems, about stealing books of poetry. When I was a baby poet in Rochester, New York, I stole Robert Bly's first book out of the Rundell Memorial Library because I loved it so much. And years later, I had to interview him for a local cable program. And between takes, I decided to let him know how much I loved that. And I said, I love that book so much, I stole it. Thinking he'd be impressed that I stole the book of poetry, and he wasn't. But he forgave me later on, but really, so it happens. That's right? I want to say a couple of things. I'm not going to go on and on, but I do just wanted to add, in case that you haven't heard, or hasn't been added to the program in some way, Toy Derricott, of course, sends her love to you all. I want to be sure that got out into the world. I have two students here from the University of Tennessee, two grad students here. Sandra and Cheryl are here. Can you stand up? These are my students. And I wanted to do that because of something that I thought when I was listening to David play. David, you're from the Eastman. I'm from Rochester, New York. So we have that connection. And I texted them, my students, to say, midway, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And they said, well, it's okay. We don't know anybody here. And it triggered an old memory. I had a great percussion teacher when I was in high school, when I was in elementary school. And I would go to the Eastman School for 25 cents, and I'd take a lesson. And they did a percussion ensemble at Kelborn Hall. And my teacher was there, and so I went to see this performance. And it was fantastic. But I had this clear memory of being in the hall afterwards and feeling I didn't belong. As beautiful as that moment was, and it really was a beautiful moment. You've been to Kelborn Hall, you know how beautiful that space is. And I just wanted to trigger that memory because I was at Sonia's 90th birthday at the Schomburg Library last week, and I didn't feel alone. And I'm here at Furious Flower, and I don't feel alone. And that's the work of Joanne, right? And so many people, to make sure that African Americans do not feel that they're out in the cold, right? That they can be in a space where I know you folks, you know me, right? You know, and I didn't realize I was looking for that when I was a kid in that hall. So I wanted to thank everybody. I want to thank Joanne. I want to thank you for this incredible honor that I was not looking for. And what a pleasure it is. Be good to my students when you see them in the halls. Thank you.
Let's get up for our honorees, people. I just want to add a quick note. I would be remiss if I did not mention these two things. As a professor at Howard University for 2 decades now, they kidnapped me from Harlem. I have to tell you that E. Ethelbert Miller plays a profound role in the history of not only black poetry, American poetry, but Howard University. So you have Elaine Locke, you have Sterling Brown, and Ethelbert Miller. He's mentored countless generation of students informally at Howard University, and they're all out in the world doing their thing. The first and only time I've been to AWP was in 2010 in DC. And I remember we was at one of the hotels, at the bar place where they was doing it. I wasn't really registered, I just crashed the joint. And it was like a sea of white people. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I was looking around, and I saw there was a bar over here, and I saw a face, and she was looking at me, and I was looking at her, and it was Tayari Jones. She came up to me. And that's when I realized what Ethelbert's anthology was all about, In Search of Color Everywhere. At this time, we have a greeting to share tonight from a very special person to tonight's awardees. Are we gonna roll?
Dearest awardees, Elizabeth Alexander, and I say these names with such feeling, Kwame Dawes, Cornelius Eady, Nikki Finney, Lorna Goodison, E. Ethelbert Miller, Harriet Mullet, Nie Asundari, Tim Siebels, Patricia Smith, it was at my first Furious Flower where I saw all kinds of Black poets from all over come together and show how much they loved each other. I started thinking, you know, I grew up in a Black family. My mother thought class was very important. And poetry, not so important. And my father, as Neo told me, after I told her this story, my father burned my archive when I was 19. He destroyed every poem and notebook I'd ever written since I was 9 or 10 years old. So, taking what I saw happen at Furious Flower, when I met Cornelius and Sarah, and I shared with Cornelius an idea for a summer retreat for Black poets. I did so with a trembling and fearful heart. Actually, I was afraid that he would take my idea and run with it, and I'd be left behind. But Furious Flower had given me that little bitty hope and courage to go beyond my fear and to make that connection with another Black person. A lot of good came from that. So I'm so very grateful for all the work that each of you has put in to make this family come forth in power and love and beauty. Because you believe in it and you've taken those risks to strengthen your own souls. So, thank you, Joanne Gammon, for showing us this way that we can come together in love and power. And thank you all for all you've done, the sacrifices you've made and continue to make. I congratulate you on this award. And I'm grateful for all of us here who want to show you how much you are appreciated. Thank you.
The final awards are particularly special because the poets receiving them are also the poets to whom Furious Flower 4 is dedicated. First, Lauren K. Elaine will present the honoree and Lifetime Achievement Award to Kwame Dawes.
Okay. Y'all silly. I can't see. I don't even know where to begin in the story of Kwame Dawes, but it began at Cave Canem, and it continues to this day. It's just gratitude and love, Kwame. Kwame Dawes embodies the global, the transnational, the diasporic. He is poet, mentor, and inspiration, having dedicated a lifetime of labor in the poetry vineyard. Dawes was born in Ghana, raised in Jamaica, has lived in Canada and the United States, and has spent significant time in the UK. The busiest man in poetry, Dawes is the author of 22 collections of poetry, as well as books of fiction, nonfiction, literary criticism, and drama. His work has been awarded several prestigious honors, including a Wyndham Campbell Prize, the Forward Prize, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and even an Emmy. The current Poet Laureate of Jamaica, Dawes was also a 2024 recipient of the Musgrave Silver Medal for his contribution to the arts in Jamaica. In 2022, the Jamaican government awarded him the Order of Distinction Commander Class. I do have him in my phone as Commander Kwame Dawes because it gives me joy. Generations of poets have been impacted by Dawes' work as a mentor and an educator. He has taught at the University of South Carolina, the University of Nebraska, Pacific University, and will soon be joining the Brown University Department of Literary Arts. He has served on the faculty of Cave Canem and led countless workshops over the decades and around the world. As poetry editor of People Tree Press in the UK, editor-in-chief of Prairie Schooner, editor of This American Life in Poetry, co-creator of the Calabash International Literary Festival in Jamaica, and especially as founding editor of the African Poetry Book Fund, Kwame Dawes has been an invaluable international cultural worker and has created significant platforms for poets and poetry to develop, to evolve, to thrive. Moreover, Dawes' induction as a Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets and a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature demonstrate the impact he continues to have on the landscape of American and world letters. In recognition of his vast and generous contributions to the worlds of Black poetry, Fierce Flower is so proud to recognize, honor, and celebrate Kwame Dawes with a 2024 Fierce Flower Lifetime Achievement Award, and to fittingly dedicate this fourth convening of the Fierce Flower Poetry Conference to him.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. What a pleasure it is. I was talking with Chris Abani on an interview a few days ago, and he brought up the idea of gratitude as foundational to the work that we do together. And then we were talking about it and meditating on it, and that idea that gratitude is not a sentiment, it's not just a feeling, it's an action. That the action inside of gratitude, in Jamaica, when you say ungrateful, it is a demonstrable behavior. There's an activity involved in gratitude, and then there's also an attitude, and there's also an activity involved in gratitude, which is to give back, to make space for others, to encourage others, to always recognize that you never get here on your own. People behind you, people in front of you, people guiding you. So, Lauren, thank you for this, and thank you all for this honor. And it's great to be being honored with the wonderful Elizabeth Alexander, because we are age mates, you know. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Where are we? I can't see it there.
I got you.
Oh, wait a minute.
I got you.
This is the final award.
It's your, yeah. You
I have to say
it's
my,
next to the T.
I got to give my Elizabeth Alexander story.
No. And finally, I'm a Scorpio. Furious Flower founder, Dr. Joanne Gabin, will present the Honoree and Lifetime Achievement Award to Elizabeth Alexander. We're going to let Dr. Gabin do the story, Tony.
Thank you. Welcome home, family. This is the Black Poetry Planet. This is homecoming. This is where we come together to affirm ourselves. We don't need others. That's why this all began, because I wanted to affirm Gwendolyn Brooks, and she wanted to affirm all of you. So we come together to spread the love. Thank you for all the love you have shown me over 30 years. It's been my pleasure to be the founder of the Furious Flower Poetry Center. I bring you greetings from Sonia Sanchez, who turned 90 years old last week, and we were in New York to celebrate with her. I bring you greetings
from Nikki Giovanni. She sends her love and her feistiness. I bring you greetings from Hakeem Arabuti and from Yusef Kamanyaka. Do you understand, Elizabeth Alexander, what legacy you will join? I must say I'm very happy that I twisted Lauren's arm to make sure that I got to present this award. Thank you very much. And I'm so grateful for this woman here. Who has made this transition for me a joyful one. I met Elizabeth Alexander many, many years ago, at least 35. I will never forget that moment I heard you introduced by Michael Harper. And you got up there and you read the Venus Hottentot poem. And I said, "Woo, that's a poet." Elizabeth Alexander, prize-winning author, renowned poet, educator, scholar, and cultural advocate, knows intuitively the meaning of my people and community. Her work is marked by the company that she keeps, the preciseness of Gwendolyn Brooks, the historical vision of Derek Walcott, the luminosity of Lucille Clifton, the intellectually adventurous spirit of Rita Dove, the urge towards freedom and justice by James Baldwin. When she graced the platform at the inauguration of President Barack Obama in 2009, she became an international voice, challenging the people of the world to embrace the day and encounter each other in words. Among the 15 books she authored or co-authored, her poetry collection, American Sublime, was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry in 2006. And her memoir, The Light of the World, a poignant book of love and loss, was a finalist for the Pulitzer in Biography and the National Book Critics Circle Award in 2015. Other works include Crave Radiance, New and Selected Poems, Power and Possibility, Essays, Reviews, Interviews, The Black Interior, Essays, Antebellum, Dream Book, Body of Life, and of course, the Venus Hottentot. Dr. Alexander's most recent book, The Trayvon Generation, offers a riveting meditation on race and power and reflects on ways that young Black people in this country are inheriting the whirlwind. She is also the president of the Mellon Foundation, the nation's largest funder in the arts, culture, and humanities, and was the professor for 15 years at Yale University, where she taught poetry and was chair of the African American Studies Department. Given the occasion at the 25th anniversary gala for Furious Flower in Washington, D.C. in 2019, she spoke passionately about community the community of Black people and Black poets who make art out of life. She said, quote, "What it means to belong to this community is to come in our most unique forms, in our most unique voices, in our most unique shapes. For the last 30 years, Elizabeth Alexander has participated in every conference, in every major event that Furious Flower has put on. She is a regular, and we love her. But it is my distinct pleasure tonight to extend to her congratulations for the 2024 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Furious Flower Poetry Center, and to say that this conference is dedicated to her.
Well, this is extraordinary. We've all been in a lot of rooms. We've been in a lot of homes. We've been on a lot of streets. We've been a lot of places. We've sung a lot of songs. We've made some bad rhymes. We've acted out our lives in pieces. But what I think we know tonight is that there is no love like Black poet love. There is no love like Black poet love. And Patricia, I appreciate what you said about the way that we have made family in all of its beauty and complication and differentness and strength and profound, profound beauty. There are so many things to say, but just to say a few things. First of all, to share this extraordinary honor with my brother Kwame is perfection. My first Black poet who I ever met in person is E. Ethelbert Miller. When I was 19, I came home to Washington, D.C. from college and walked up those 10 flights of stairs, I don't know, walked all the way up those stairs to the Afro-American Resource Center to meet with Ethelbert. I think I must have called you on the phone. I think that's what you did then, and went to visit. And the generosity with which you received me and showed me things in your drawers. I didn't know I'd be in those drawers one day, and showed me letters and poems and marked my poems was an extraordinary thing. My next Black poet was Michael S. Harper, who I met later that same year when he came to read at college. And I felt inside me something change. I miss him so much. I miss so many of our people so much, but the feeling that they are all here with us and that they will always be here with us is an extraordinary one. Just to add, I hadn't thought about this forever, but I stole a book too. The Book of American Negro Poetry, and I stole it from the Sidwell Friends School Library, and I still have it. I didn't give it back. I think it belongs with me. Don't tell them. And then just finally thinking in just all the gratitude, I mean, of course, to Joanne, the way you've brought us together, but also I want to say the way that you receive each of us with so much profound openness and acceptance and warmth. It is the sun, and we feel better and bigger and more full of possibility and more loved when we are with you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Again, many, many things to say, but I'm just thinking about all the things that have happened in the last 10 years. And so I feel like so many of you in this room, we know each other. We know each other's ways. And you know my children, now men, and you know my parents, and you know my dad, who passed 2 years ago. And in his words and in his ways, I feel he made me a poet because he was such a shit talker. And he was, all of the language that Harlem, USA has to offer, he had in his mouth, all the storytelling, all the cursing. Oh my God, he was a poet of profanity. And it was beautiful and it was extraordinary. And he was the son for me. And his language was extraordinary. He used to, just in the way that we do, when my brother and I were very small, he would say sometimes that he would do not Shakespeare, but Shakespearean, which was a very black thing, not to do the thing itself, but to do a variation on the thing itself. And he would just kind of make up half doth, what, nuth, tuth, and tell us these extraordinary tales. And so I think that perhaps it was his radical love of black people. He loves us, and I love us. And that gave me everything I needed, and everything I needed to do this work, and everything I needed because to be in this community now, when I've gone off to war for the last 9 years to work in philanthropy, which sometimes feels like war. It sometimes feels like glory, but it sometimes feels like war. Because we are under siege yet again. And so we all just have to stand up straight and empowered and as resourced as we can. So to come into this community, which is my true community, and to feel this love is amazing. But my parents had, amongst their books, they didn't have poetry books. There wasn't a poetry bookshelf. But interestingly, there were 3 books of poems. Leroy Jones, The Dead Lecturer. Lucille Clifton, Good Times. And Langston Hughes, The Panther and the Lash. And I still have those positively dog-eared books that I read over and over and over and over again before I even knew that they were creating a world, and a world that would be represented here and that would welcome me here. So just filled with gratitude, and this is a beautiful, beautiful thing just to be together. Thank you.
So I'm supposed to, one day they're trying to get us out of here, but we can't go because I have one more thank you to do. And it is to the woman whose lifetime achievement is the institution, the community, the spirit, and the heart that is Furious Flower, founder and executive director emeritus, Dr. Joanne Gavin. We continue to live in your vision and commitment to celebrating Black poets and Black poetry. Thank you for seeding and tending this space. We are all so proud to be your harvest. Oh, they want pictures. Okay. We're going to take pictures.
You're going to say something?
Yeah, I got to finish.
I just want to say that the last time we met 10 years ago, my husband took the microphone and he said, if you want to thank Joanne Gabin, you better thank her now because she might not be here. Well, I want to tell you, I'm here. I'm here. And sweetheart, I love you. And I'm glad to be around for another decade to bother you. Kwame Dawes saw me and he said, Joanne, I have never seen such a smooth transition, you know, in terms of leadership. And I said I had a succession plan. When Lauren K. Aline came into my office and interviewed, I knew she was the woman who was destined to take my place. So I have to say to her, I am so proud of her, so proud of what she has done, the vision she has to move Furious Flower into the future in a magnificent way. So here's Lauren K. Aline.
Thank you. So I forgot who I called a couch earlier, but I also am not the person who can envision the couch. I need to put the couch and then decide if I like it. And now that you are here, I like it. Thank you everyone for being here to celebrate these 10 amazing poets and to kick off Furious Flower 4, the worlds of Black poetry. I hope you're as inspired as I am by the range and volume and the multiple manifestations of what it means to have lived a life in poetry that these poets represent for us tonight. Let's give them all another round of applause. And it's been a wonderful first day. We started with the College of Education, hosted a Furious Flower syllabus project presentation with educators and high school students from around Harrisonburg. 2 young women stopped me and read me their poems for about 20 minutes, so I think that was a success. We had our virtual abundance programs hosted by Dr. Benga Adeshina, in which, in spite of some technical snafus, I hear was dope and amazing, according to the texts I got. And of course, we have tonight's Glimmering celebration. I want to thank several people for making this a thing of beauty. Thank you to the Furious Flower Advisory Board, who helped me generate and then whittle down an incredibly long and worthy list of Black poets who engaged in robust discussion and then helped arrive at the folks we celebrated tonight. I want to thank our sponsors, the Office of the President, the Office of the Provost, READY, which is JMU's Research, Economic Development, and Innovation. They sponsored the Beautiful Glass Awards made by Brathwaite Studios here in Harrisonburg. They're handmade and hand-etched, and we spent a lot of time making them pretty. So it's the good stuff. I want to say thank you to our incredible hosts with the mosts. I want to thank our musician for the performance and the atmosphere. I want to thank our AV and sound tech people. God knows y'all didn't want me in charge of that. They made the lights, they made the things happen. Thank you. And I have to give a special round of applause to Sarah Saccone and her team of volunteers, Karen Richmott, Sybil Davis, Pam Brock, Enrico, Bob Davis, and the staff of Festival, who really want us to go so they can turn this room around for tomorrow. But this is a group effort, and we are just at the beginning of what I hope will be a magnificent, transformative, inspiring, beautiful 4 days with each other, around each other, and of course, getting all of the good poetry that's about to go down. So I want you to get back, get some rest. We did not have a lot of breaks built in. You're just gonna be going. And I want to wish you all a good night and a really wonderful conference. Thank you. calling all Lifetime Achievement Award winners and presentation people. We need you for a photograph. Thank you. Oh, and the shuttles are running. Hopefully the shuttles are running back to the Hyatt in the courtyard.